Audrey Bell Kearney is back. She is a 59-year-old entrepreneur, author, and president of the Gwinnett Women's Chamber of Commerce. And she is proving that reinvention has no age limit. She's had 3 decades in business, published 14 books, and she's entering a bold new chapter building an AI-powered fiction book franchise called The Housewives of Gwinnett. And she's just having a blast like she is, like I am, like so many of us, with AI writing and tinkering. And it seems like the good old days of playing on your computer. And remember when there was only a few websites or a few programs on your computer and you can just play, and then there was this weird in-between time when it all became too serious and it was all about SEO optimization and Facebook. And now it seems like the fun times are back. So we can talk today about leveraging AI and Audrey's expert team to create compelling nonfiction books based on your professional expertise. Her website is noisemedia.us, and she has so much to say about this amazing time we're living in with AI, and especially using it to get the writing done and expressing yourself and just getting all those half-finished projects finally completed so you can achieve some milestones in life and live the life of your dreams. So, Miss Audrey Bell Kearney, how have you been?
Thank you, Robert. I've been amazing. Thank you so much for having me back again. I think this is my third time. It's been a
Okay.
long time that you and I have been acquainted. So I'm always happy to come back and share what I'm doing because I'm always doing something. So I've been good. How about yourself?
I mean, living the dream. And then, yeah, just I run AI all day, every day. I'm generating images, I'm reading files, I'm doing the deep research, I'm doing the prompt chains, but
Yeah.
I'm not just playing around. I'm using it to make money. And so I think you're right. It looks like you're one of my first podcast guests. I think I knew you in 2016, and then I think we caught up again maybe around like 2020 or so. And then you've just been a repeat guest. You were talking about building a global podcasting brand, and you're talking about delegating, which are all the high points, those things that we need to talk about. And so I think we're on like episode like 1560 something. So you can imagine like the repeat conversations and the connecting the dots, and it's all important stuff, right? And there's these repeat patterns about how important it is to like set good goals and delegate and do some of the awkwardness like you and I are doing here, the podcasting, the PR, the publicity, and then now it's all led to AI, and now it can all connect, right? Because you can like use AI to like take in all your content and make better content or give ideas for content or help you with strategy. My mind is blown, but at the same time, I'm overwhelmed. So I can't be the only one, right? That's just like, it can do everything with AI. And I feel like I'm pulled in like 3,000 directions. So how do I even make sense of what's possible?
Yeah, it's so funny because you're right. The last time we spoke, I was building Good Morning Gwinnett, which was my podcast at the time, and it became not just a podcast but a whole news platform. So I live in Gwinnett County, and so it became not just a podcast, which I think I recorded probably 1,220 episodes of the podcast. It grew into a news platform, so now it's kind of like doing its own thing. Like I have Google ads running on there because I ran it from 2018 to now. So it's been 8 years I've been running that podcast, and it has grown and it's doing really well to the point where I said, okay, I can kind of step back a little bit and do something more fun because it's a lot of news on there and things like that. But I'm in this stage of my life right where I want to have fun and make money at the same time. And I have come 360 degrees because I started out in the book industry in 1999. I co-authored my first book with two friends in 1998. There was only one book on the market about self-publishing. It was by a guy named Dan Pointer. He had one, and it was about that thin. And I bought that book, and I learned how to self-publish from that one book. And I've been publishing books ever since. So over the probably from 1998 up until 2020. 24, all my books have been nonfiction where I sat down to the computer and did a brain dump. And then because people would ask me, well, how do I start a business? Well, how do I write a book? Well, how do I start a podcast? Well, how do I start? They will always ask me how to. So I would write a how because I learned so quickly. I would write a how to book, right? And so
Yeah.
that has been my thing for like the last 20 something years up until AI came along, and I was like, I wonder, can I write a fiction book with AI, right? And I did my first fiction in 2024. It was called the Lyran Legacy. And what started that off was I was laying in bed one night watching YouTube as I always do, and this thing popped up on my screen and said, "Are you a starseed?" And I'm like, "What the heck is a starseed?" Right? And so I watched the video, and they were talking about it's very what did somebody tell me it was called? It's very new age is what someone told me it was. It's very new age, Audrey. And I was like, okay, I have no idea what that means, but okay. But I went down the rabbit hole, Robert, of trying to find out about this starseed thing and became very intrigued. But my mind was like, I don't know if I'm a starseed or not, but this will make a good book. Right. And
Yeah.
so I decided to do some research and write a book about the Lyran Legacy, because in that research, it started to name all the characteristics of what type of starseed you could be. Based on what it said, I would be a Lyran starseed, right? It was like all these crazy things, like, pointed ears. I have two very pointed ears. I don't know if that's one, and they're different. That's the crazy part. Like my ears are pointed and they're different though. So my mom told me when she was pregnant with me, my father used to love Star Trek and she hated Star Trek. So when I was born, I was born my ears like this, and as I got older, they came out like this, and they're pointed, but they're made differently. Even though they're pointed, this one is not like that one, but they're both pointed. So when I started to read the whole thing about the star seeds, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I might be a Lyran, whatever that is, right? But for me, it was like that would make a great book. So I went to ChatGPT at the time, and I was like, I want to write this book on the Lyran legacy, and I came up with all the characters, and she's a young, she's smart, blah blah blah. So I did the whole book like in 2 days, and I was like, oh my god, this worked. And then I put the book on Amazon and Spotify, and I'm getting royalties for the book. I'm like, wait a minute, I think I done hit on to something here. And no marketing, didn't talk about it for real, just wanted to see what it worked. And it worked, right? So that was my first book. And then the second book I wrote, which was last year, it was called the Hooper-Renwick Files. So Hooper-Renwick was the only black school in Gwinnett County. And they were going to tear the school down, but they made it a historical site and turned it into a library here and a museum, because at the time it was the only black school. And so instead of tearing it down, they remodeled it. It's beautiful. They turned it into a museum and a library. So I decided to write a mystery book about that. So inside of the library, when they were doing all the reconstruction, they found this secret, right? So that was that book. And I was like, okay, that's nice. But then I thought about, I think I want to do something a little bit different. I used to love the Desperate Housewives. I used to love watching that. I don't know if you remember that series with
Oh, yeah.
what was her name?
Yeah.
Terry and
Terry
what was
Hatcher.
the lady? Tay Hatcher. I used to love watching that, right? I love anything detective. Like I used to watch Perry Mason when I was a little girl. Like who watches Perry Mason? Me. I used to love watching Perry Mason and Matlock. Anything like that I love, right? And so I decided, you know what? I'm gonna write a book series called The Housewives of Gwinnett. And it's gonna be a cross between ratchet and mystery and romance all mixed together. So I started to do that. And as I was coming up with the concept, I literally was laying in the bed on a Sunday morning cracking up to myself, because the thoughts were coming to my mind like, what could this look like? And I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about it. So I'm writing all this stuff down in my phone, which I have about 2,000 notes in my phone. And I'm writing these notes down, like it could be like this, and then I could be like that. Now, what was interesting about the other part of my thought process was this. Here in Gwinnett County, Stranger Things is shot over at Gwinnett Place Mall. So that mall is closed down, but they shoot Stranger Things over there. And then downtown Lawrenceville, where I actually live, they shoot Sleepy Hollow down there, right? And I was like, okay, so what happens if I include businesses into the books, and then we turn this into a place for people to come and visit when they come to Gwinnett County? They can go to, the Cricket Can and visit the brewery, or they can go to Mood Cafe and visit the cafe. So now it became not just a book, but also a community promotion kind of thing at the same time, with great story entertainment around it. So that's pretty much how I came up with the concept, and I'm just having a lot of fun creating. And I can tell you, Robert, I've always wanted to be like creative, like artsy. Like I went to college and I fell sculpture. Who fell sculpture? It's clay. I did. I fell sculpture. I got a straight F in sculpting. And then when I got older, my husband bought me a spinning wheel so I can spin the clay and make the pottery. I fell at that too. He bought me all kinds of gadgets. All of them I fell at. I got paint sets. I can't draw a straight line. But when it comes to the computer, I've always been very good with the computer ever since 10th grade in high school. And so I have found my happy place, and AI is my happy partner. And we sit here and we create some stuff that makes me happy, and hopefully it'll make other people happy too.
Well, very nice. That's a wonderful collection of stories there, where especially there's creativity applied in different ways, right? There's kind of like this idea of what you focus on in your mind grows, and so when you're
Yeah.
thinking about these fun like detective stories and these characters and the adventures and scrapes they get up to, then like you assign that to your brain, and then that becomes something that you wake up with, and it's like a TV show that never ends, right? Desperate Housewives was like what, 6 7 seasons or something, but this is in your brain,
Yeah.
it can just continue on forever. And it's you're kind of touching on some things that I've heard other authors talk about, which is like they kind of use little bits of inspiration and turn it into something new, right? They call it ripped from the headlines. You see a little something and you say, hey, well, I'm not going to write a book report on the starseed, but I'll look into that, and that might be a jumping off point for something interesting. And then I also hear a lot of authors kind of use the geography that they know, like if they've been to a cool world location or their small town, and even though
Yeah.
the rest of us can't even fully appreciate that, oh, there's this street and there's this general store and there's this place on the corner, it's still a lot of fun. Like Stephen King does a lot of that, right? With like the small towns like Derry, Maine, right? There's like, I'm sure in his mind he's like, oh, I'm thinking about this or that grocery store, and that's just where it is. And it's because you have just enough of it based on what you know, what you've seen, then it's concrete for you and you can adequately tell the story. And then what's great is you've taken it a whole next step, is now there's like the promotion aspect of it, where then you say, well, hey, there's this book that takes place in our small town or in these areas, and you get the local businesses involved and talking about it. And I can definitely relate to this idea. I'm the same way as you, where like the physical construction, like I could never hang something on the wall, right? I could never be a handyman. But then when I was a kid, there was in school, when we had one of those like off days, they'd play this show called Draw Squad, where the guy would have like a giant, like a whole wall, and he'd take a Sharpie and he'd draw like a castle and like a bridge and a boat, and he like would like from this one center, he'd like expand this whole town. And I'm like, okay, that's something I can more relate to, right? Is like in the physical world, you make one mistake, it's done. But in the computer writing, coding, AI, you can like kind of develop something, and you're still working hard. It's just this skill set that you're better equipped for. And so if someone says, okay, like all of what's possible sounds great, right? If someone out there says, well, I want to make a fiction book like Audrey, or I want to make a nonfiction book to teach my skills, like where do you think people go wrong? Like, why do you think so many people have great ideas, but they don't take action or finish?
A fear. Absolute fear. So when I'm not writing, I'm the president of the Gwinnett Women's Chamber, and I come in contact with a lot of women-owned businesses, and some of them are even my client doing other stuff. And it's fear. It's fear of. I have one client. I give you a quick story. I have one client, right? Most of the time, Robert, when a business owner start their business, the thing that they have a problem with is having the cash to market the business, right? That's the thing. So that's not her issue. So when I'm thinking about her, I'm thinking, okay, so she has created these apps. Like I created some apps for her. It's two different apps. She's paid a lot of money for both of them. One of them we created 3 years ago, has never launched. Right? I'm like, launch the app. Then she came back and created another app. So I said to her, I don't think you need another app right now. I think you need to market the first app. Now, mind you, this is money out of my pocket, but me being a responsible person, like, you don't need another app. You need to market the first app. She's like, no, I want another app. So I created another app. That's been almost 2 years. She hasn't done anything. So we had a conversation and we were talking about money. Money is not her issue. And I thought to myself, what is holding her back? And I realized it was fear.
Hmm.
It was fear. And I think fear holds a lot of people back because once they do all the things, now you can no longer say, well, I don't know what business is. I don't know what business to start. You started the business. Everything is in place. And I give you another prime example. I did a smart site for someone last week. And before that, it was like I have to take this class, I have to do this thing. Now they've done all the things. So now it's like, okay, so now you've done all those things. I'm gonna go ahead and create this web app for you. And then let's see what happens. I've heard nothing. It's been crickets. So I think it's fear of I'm going to fail, fear of what if nobody buys from me. And that holds a lot of people back. My brother, who's a football coach too, and I said to him, he's like, yeah, I just want to make some extra money. He said, but I don't want my name on anything because I don't think anybody's going to support me. My brother network is bigger than mine. It's humongous. And it's in the football space, like NFL, college football, high school football. His network is huge. But he feels like people are not going to support him. So he's afraid to take any business venture, any endeavor in the business space, which I was like, I feel like you'll do great. So I feel like it's fear for the most part. The other part is thinking that you're going to create something and they're going to show up. That's a no. You're going to have to put yourself out there. You're going to have to create visibility. And what I will say, as much as I like uh, uh, AI, if you don't start putting your face out, like your real face, you talking so they can see the hands really moving in real time, we're going to become so oversaturated with AI clones and AI avatars that people are not going to believe that you are who you say you are because they don't know the real you. They see the robot talking and it looks real, right? But you can, if you sit there long enough, you can see the eye go like this and one go like that, and it does some other stuff, right? Some other crazy things. They need to see the real you. So you have to put yourself out there. I feel like this is a time where everybody needs a personal brand so people can really get to know who you are. I feel like we're going back around to community in person for that very reason. So when I think about building like this book franchise that I'm building, there is a huge component of in-person community that I'm building into it because I want people to know me. I want people to like the books and talk about the books. I want us to get together because I spend a lot of time on the internet, so I'm almost burnt out from just being on the internet all day. I want to be around real people so we can have real conversations. So I feel like it's fear. I feel like people just create and think that, if I create it, they will come. That's not true. And I feel like personal branding is so important. So you have a lot of people who are introverts and they don't want to talk and they don't want to be seen, and I say if that's you, then figure out how to write your way to the top. But you're gonna have to leverage the tools so it can help you grow.
Ooh, very nice. That should be the name of your next book or one of your programs, right? Write your way to the top. And it seems like this idea of letting fear win, like if someone out there has that problem, I think maybe they have an incomplete strategy, don't they? If they say, well, okay,
Yeah.
I've got this like this football following and like these connections in sports, but oh, I don't want to put my name out there. There's the self-sabotage. And it
Yeah.
seems like if someone like that had a support system and other people who are encouraging and have been where he wants to go, then that can kind of, it won't be instant or easy, but it could lift him up versus just
Yeah.
letting that inner voice win and all the weird compromises and sabotages. Because like, you and me, we have all these friends that sometimes they'll have a great plan and they'll say one thing, right? They'll say, oh, well, I'm starting this business, but I don't want to do this. I don't want to do podcasting. I don't want to do YouTube. Oh, well, I'm not focused on making money. And it's like, it's a little puzzling and I'm still encouraging, but I'm just like, well, hey, you have all this, but then you kind of cut yourself off at the knees at this. And then I think that, you with the involvement in like the local clubs and all that, like it's such an important lesson that it takes like at least 10 times the work just to corral people, doesn't it? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it was such a hassle. Like when growing up, I did like, Boy Scouts and things like that. And whenever you had to organize like anything volunteering, right? Car wash, garbage cleanup, it's like, if you have 20 people in the Boy Scout troop to call, you had to call them 10 times. And even then only 3 people would show up. And it seems like it's maybe like a weirdly set expectations, right? Oh, I'll just send one email, I'll make one post, and then everyone will love me. Well, you might have to make 10 YouTube videos just for one to
Yeah.
get any kind of traffic. You might have to talk to 10 people just for one to even reply to you. And then even that, you need to talk to like way more just to get your numbers right. So it's like more work than maybe you anticipate. But a helpful solution is to have people in our corner, such as yourself, who can be encouraging and to help us guide, especially with this kind of, I don't know, like being a glutton for punishment almost, right? When you're a business owner, self-employed entrepreneur, like you're kind of doing a lot more work than you have to. But what's the alternative? Like working for IBM or working for the local accountant? That's not fun. It's more about
Yeah.
the risk and the adventure, and especially when it comes to podcasting and the book publishing and getting the word out. But here I am yammering on. I want to make sure that in these final minutes we talk about what's important to you. So do you think there might be a missing question in our conversation, Miss Audrey, that I should be asking you? I just don't know to ask you.
Um, I think as it pertains to publishing, I think that a lot of people fear that AI is stealing content, right? I hear that a lot. I used to hear it a lot. I don't hear as much now, but when I first wrote the very first book, I heard a lot of um you're stealing my content. People are stealing the content, and what I would say to people is don't let that stop you, because nobody has lived my personal experience in Gwinnett County except for me, right? So
Right.
I'm the one who went to the cricket can and talked to Joe and said, "Hey Joe, this would." I'm the one that did that. So if I take that and put it into my book and I make the rest of everything else fiction, that's my experience. And so I would tell people, I feel like AI is a great equalizer for a lot of people if they understand how to use it creatively, right? I think about rural counties and urban cities where there are not a lot of jobs. It's a lot of strife. People are struggling. They're trying to figure out how to make ends meet. I'm sure they have some amazing stories. I can almost get. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, right? I can tell you some amazing stories from growing up in Newark with a single mom and getting in the cheese line and all of those things. I can tell you amazing stories because I lived those stories. And you would think that nobody cared about those stories, but people want to hear stories. They want to hear real stories. And so I look at AI right now as a way to leverage the playing field, especially if you are in a underserved population, whether it be rural or inner city or urban or whatever it is. You could take your stories and turn it into a story that somebody wants to listen to. There's a young lady out in Mississippi. She's a client, and she went through a lot. She was abused, a whole lot of stuff. She was in an abusive relationship. She wrote the book, and I helped her write it. And she's been on two news, like the news networks out there. And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm on the second news network interviewing, talking about her book." And her story is one of healing, is one of overcoming, is one of, dealing with the abuse that she went through and how she's moving forward. And it's inspiring for a lot of people. That's why the news journalists keep picking her up to tell the story, because somebody needs to hear that story. So I would tell people to take a step back this weekend, this Memorial Day weekend, take a minute and say, what can I share with people? And can this make me money? I could tell you, for me, I'm not a one book person anymore. I am a book with a whole lot wrapped around it. So my one book is 5 streams of income, Robert. That's another thing. You write one book, you think you're gonna become a bestseller, you don't even make the Amazon bestseller, and then you figure this doesn't work, right? Well, Amazon is there for you to distribute, but it's not your marketing partner. Right. So if you have not set up the author page correctly, you had not did all of the things that Amazon say you need to do, nobody's going to find the book. And especially if you didn't write about anything that people cared about. So
Hmm.
I took that one book and I said, okay, how can I turn this one book into 5 streams of income? Well, it's a paperback, it's an audio book. I turned it into a limited edition hardcover. I put the audio on vinyl, so it's a vinyl record to go with the hardcover limited edition. That's 4 streams, right? There is a ebook for it, right? And then I turned it into a trivia game, and then I turned one of the scenes inside of the book into a jigsaw puzzle. That's one book, all the streams of income. So people that love jigsaws will love it. People that love puzzle books will love it because there's a puzzle book. People who like vinyl might want to hear the story on vinyl. People who love collecting books would like that book. And then people who just like reading books and ebooks will read it. So I'm a more than a one type. For me, it's like I'm gonna do the book. I'm gonna turn each book into 5 pieces of content. I'm gonna do the next, and I'm gonna keep it going. That's my system, and I think that's what AI allows us to do. It allows us to be creative. The trivia game is built into the website. I use Claude to build the whole thing, to build the whole back office. All the code, I use Claude. I've created the code. I dropped it into Lovable. It created my whole trivia game. We played last Friday night, had a blast, right? But the only way for you to win, you got to read the book. So
Nice.
now that becomes a marketing platform for my book. And the person that actually won read the book. She's a speed reader. She said, I read the book, and she actually won. So, and then now that's building community. that's building community around my books and my book series. So, just think outside of the box a little bit. Think about what you could be doing and think about what problem you can solve. So, if you're going to do nonfiction, find a gap in your industry. If you're in the real estate industry, I guarantee you there's a gap somewhere. If you're in the plumbing industry, there is a gap somewhere in that industry that you could fill with your little thing. And it doesn't have to be something major. It's that one little thing that they're missing out on that could be your $1 million business right there. That little gap. So yeah, that's what I would say.
You're blowing my mind with the possibilities here. And so you're saying that the power of story is it makes you unique and helps people where the otherwise might not have been reached, right? Because you tell these
Yeah.
stories and people can relate, people are uplifted, and there's also that story that you tell yourself about how like you can do it and you can make it, and it seems like there's a little bit of a pattern in what you're saying about making it more about others than about you, right? If you doubt yourself, or you
Yeah.
say, "Oh, what will I write my book about? I'm so shy. I've 32 different reasons why I can't even create the book, finish it, and if I do, I wouldn't even want to put my face on it. I'm so shy. I'm so afraid." But if you say, "Well, hey, there are people out there who need your help, and maybe
Yeah.
they need your help with your fiction or your nonfiction, but think about the people that would love your book, that would be so entertained and would have such a blast." And I love the outside the box thinking. And I mean, I feel like I need to go to ChatGPT and Claude right now and like brainstorm some of this, because that's the I was shocked at, I can't remember the percentage, but like so few people still use AI as much as we talk
Yeah.
about it. And it's like if someone out there is saying, "Oh, well, the jigsaw puzzle, how do I do that?" Well, you ask Claude or ChatGPT and it'll tell you like what print on demand service, how to format. It'll even generate the
Yep.
image for you and you can figure that out.
Yep.
The trivia game. I mean, you make a like a day planner. There's software that you can make like animated cartoons so you can make your book come
Yep.
to life. And I mean, that's just the big, I mean, the vinyl record thing, you look into who will print that for you. The hardcover book, same idea. And so it's just such a world out there where, like you said, back in 1999, you might look up a subject and you find one book that's this thin, and it would be at one library, or maybe it'd be on Amazon, and it takes 3 weeks to arrive in the mail. Now we have the answer
Yeah.
instantly. So it's up to us to
Yep.
not squander it and take some action. So if someone says, "Okay, I really need the help of Audrey Bell Kearney to get some of this done, to write my book and to get it, ghost written or published or promoted or a bestseller," what are some next steps here?
Well, the next step, if you really need my support, you can go to thebookpreneur.com, and I have a bunch of different programs there. So I help people write books. I help people distribute books that they've already written. I help them format them for Amazon, things like that. I have to. There was a lady. She's a pastor. She was 80 years old, Robert, last May. As a matter of fact, it's been a year now. I helped her get her book written. It was something she said she had been wanting to do her whole life. She's 80 years old, and she's a pastor in Mississippi. So she said she wanted to write this book, and she sent me over some stuff. So I formatted the book, put it into book format. That was in May. November, Thanksgiving Day in November, right? I get a call early in the morning. She goes, "Hey," I said, "Good morning." Her name is Miss Hattie. I said, "Hey, Miss Hattie." She's like, "Hey, I got a question for you." And I said, "Yeah." She said, "I got an order for some books." I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "Can I do that? Can I sell the book like that?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, yeah. How many books is it?" She said, 1,200. I said,
What?
one person ordered 1,200 books, and she said, "Yeah." I said, "Who ordered them?" She said, "The sheriff department ordered the 1,200 books."
Huh.
And I said, "Well, did they order them at wholesale or did they order them at cost?" They ordered 1,200 at the Amazon price, right? I nearly fell out the bed, Robert, on the floor. And she said, I said, who are they giving the books to? She said, they're giving the books to the inmates. And I said, wow. The name of her book was called It's Never Too Late.
Hmm.
So the sheriff decided to give the book as a Christmas gift to the inmates to say, even though you're in here, it's never
Never
too
too
late.
late. Oh.
And it was a lot of biblical principle, and it was a journal in the back for them to read the principles and write in the journal in the back. That's what she wanted, and she sold 1,200. I was floored. That is one of my proudest moments, and I've been doing this a long time. But she started as soon as she got her book back. She did book signing. She was all over the place. She was doing book signing. She was everywhere, and she managed to get the sheriff to buy 1,200 books to give to the inmates for the holidays to let them know that even though you're in here, it's never too late. So it's never too late is my closing remarks.
Ooh, those are some great closing remark. That's very encouraging. And then I can imagine having a success like that launches us to work even harder or pursue even more
Yeah.
opportunities to have bigger successes. And that's what life should be all about, right? You have these wins along the way, and it makes you just jump into action and say, oh my gosh, if I sold 1,200 books to this sheriff's department, maybe I'll contact all the sheriff's departments. Maybe I'll think
Yep.
about what are the next book, or maybe put out videos or make a documentary or whatever that next step
Yeah.
is. And so you say thebookpreneur.com is the place to go and get educated and look around and see
Yeah.
what makes sense to you. If you need help with that first draft, or getting the book written, or speaking opportunities, or bestseller visibility boost, and so on, then check out thebookpreneur.com. And if you go there and you say, oh my gosh, there's so many ideas, but I have no idea where to start, there's a button where you can register for a $97 discovery call with Miss Audrey Bell Kearney, and you can just have this conversation. And if you had as much fun as I did listening to the podcast interview, imagine how much fun you'll have one-on-one and telling her about your situation, and her like telling you about what's possible and maybe helping to solve the problem and develop a plan. So thebookpreneur.com is the next step, is the place to go. And we've been talking with the wonderful Miss Audrey Bell Kearney, who knows so much about book writing and book publishing and making a difference in your world, whatever that means for you. But before I let you go, Miss Audrey, it's time for the scary part of the show, where I try to stump you. I try to put you on the spot by asking about a fun or interesting quote or lesson that has served you. So what comes to mind as far as a fun or interesting quote or lesson?
I think one of my favorite quote is be great on purpose. Like that's one of my favorite ones. Just be great on purpose. Um, and a lot of people don't believe that about themselves. But here's the thing. I think when you live on purpose, and I haven't lived on purpose my whole life. I've lived trying to follow people and do all the things. Now I live on purpose. So I said to myself, be great on purpose, right? And greatness for me is me being my authentic self, and I'm talking to people in my authentic voice, and that allows me to be great on purpose. So that's my quote.
I love it. And in my mind, there's a double meaning for that, right? Because there's being great, like on purpose, intentionally, but then that word purpose, it's like, well, hey, what is me being great leading to? Who am I helping? What am I building? It's making my brain spark alive with many possibilities. So be great on purpose. And while we're being great on purpose, the next logical step for you to do right now is to go to thebookpreneur.com. We'll see you there. Book your call with Miss Audrey and get that book written, or get that book more visibility, whatever that next stepping stone on your life path to getting the word out about you, what you do, whether that's fiction, nonfiction. You think about the people that you help. Miss Audrey can help you brainstorm that and get some books sold, get some marketing for yourself. Thebookpreneur.com. Go there. You'll be glad you did. And thank you, Miss Audrey Bell Kearney, for another amazing stop by. And I have to go and spend 20 minutes with Claude and write 200 bullet points, because I'm just so excited about the future now that I've spoken with you. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Robert, for having me. Have a great day.